You're getting the full writer exquisiteness going on right now. My crazy hairdo that needs to basically just be taken down. But nonetheless, in full authenticity, this is the face that you're going to get. But anyways, hi. Yes, so day 2 of this week of writing is completed. What is that noise? And today went well as well, so that was good. I'm excited about that. I did about, I think it was probably close to an hour and a half. I was kind of a little bit in the zone. I wanted to finish a portion of the story and get to a part where just a better cutting off point than where I was at an hour. And so I think that was probably a better choice than to push it to 2 hours or to cut myself off at about an hour and then just leave it for the next day. Which would have been fine, but nonetheless, I kind of felt the desire to keep on writing. So that was good. Today, I challenged myself a little bit on just, I don't know, lately I've been thinking a lot about philosophy and thinking about how there's, and perhaps the type of books that I read and the books that I have been reading lately that are not specifically Christian books, aren't specifically philosophy books, but I just feel like there's a lack of questions in fiction these days. There's a lack of those kinds of fiction. There's a lack of stories that draw up thought than there used to be, and I missed that. I missed that in young adult fiction. I missed that in adult fiction. Just in general, I feel like there could definitely be more of that inside of fiction these days. So I've been playing around with it and trying to see how I can create characters who are able to pose philosophical questions without becoming really preachy and like seem not terribly realistic. You want to be able to find a character or characters who can phrase these philosophical questions or create these philosophical dilemmas that still feel real, or at least real enough that you can relate to them and feel like it's a question that's actually being posed to you rather than just that character talking to the other character. So I've been, challenging myself and trying to figure out what kind of characters work best for that and what kinds of philosophical questions I want to challenge myself with, because as a writer, you have to constantly challenge yourself with the material that you want to write. You have to have thought through to some degree the question that you're posing before you can actually pose it to the world outside. And that's super hard, especially with the way that I'm kind of creating this novel thing, whatever I'm doing, whatever this is with my writing. I'm just kind of trying to create space. So what I'm trying to do now is to not really plan things out all too much, just kind of naturally create as I'm going along and as I'm just thinking through it in the moment. And there's less room for planning in that, but at the same time I feel like there's more freedom to not stick to the plan. I think it's harder for me as a person who loves plans and loves rules and loves having a set idea and going with that. It's a lot harder to have a plan and then throw that away and then go with something better if a new thought arrives. And so in that way, to kind of work it out and kind of organically let it grow, you don't have necessarily the time to be able to think through these questions. You're thinking through them in that exact moment, or you're touching on it and then you're thinking about it later, and then coming back to it and then kind of creating in that at that time. So it's difficult, it's interesting, it's curious. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but it's fun. That's what it's all about, right? Fun. There's something going on outside and I do not know what's going on. I want to know. I'm like a dog. I'm like, there's life outside. There's life. What is going on? Anyways, so distracting. But yeah, so that's what I was kind of challenging myself with today. The other aspect to it is that I feel like, there's a lot of authors in the past, C.S. Lewis, Chesterton, who are really good at creating these spaces where questions are kind of naturally brought out and naturally drawn to the surface, very philosophical questions. And they pose it in a way that it's not even just straight, Christian thought. It's the idea of just going a step deeper and thinking through life, and allowing the reader to be able to think through things that maybe they haven't thought about before, or think through things and kind of create that discomfort, create that tension between having a question raised that you don't know and the point of being able to figure out what you actually think. There's this moment in between when you're actually thinking through what you actually think that is really hard to deal with. At least it is for me. I really hate that moment where I'm just like, I don't know what I think about any of this. But at the same time, I love it because it's just an opportunity for growth, and it's an opportunity for change, and it's an opportunity to challenge my thoughts and challenge what I think about things, and challenge my already preconceived notions, and really challenge, whether this is accurate, if this is actually applicable to me, or if it's something that I learned in the past that isn't as applicable anymore, or wasn't the truth from the very beginning, and it was my misunderstanding, and it was my defaults of my personality or my environment telling me something wrong. And so now where I am, I'd be able to look at something different. But yeah, so I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you feel like there's a lack of philosophical thought and questions inside of literature today? Specifically, I really love like young adult literature, and I don't know if you can go literature, but I really love I love young adult fiction. So I don't know, I feel like today it's all just very, love and lust and romance and magic and action and bing bong boom done, just very action driven, rather than thought driven, rather than kind of a cerebral type novel. So if you guys come across something, or if you guys know about books that draw out those questions, particularly young adult books, I'd love to hear. Like, I'd love to have recommendations. I'd love to have some recommendations for that. But yeah, I would also like to create something like that myself. So, yeah. And I'd also be interested to see if it's just me that's actually interested in those types of books that have great story, have great characters, and have, philosophy, not for the sake of philosophy, but for the sake of the characters and for the sake of the reader as well. That's what I like. I enjoy it. So, but I might be weird. But yeah, so that's something that I'm challenging myself with. Um, and also just kind of working through my own thoughts. It just gives you a chance to really work through what you actually believe and what you actually think about things. And the other side of that is that I kind of talked about this yesterday, but you know, when you are thinking through these things and you are creating these characters, you want, you know, the dialogue, you want the conversation to have meaning behind it, you know? And so I think that there's a value in having meaning in the conversation and having a point to why that conversation is there, you know? And I think that the author should have something in mind when they're putting it into writing. But at the same time, I also feel like there's value as a writer to just explore what you think about it, but also what you don't necessarily agree with, but you want to just explore what that thought might actually look like. And I think that can be really difficult for writers, but also I feel like as a Christian writer, I feel like that can be really difficult because I feel like people might misinterpret what I'm saying and saying that specifically I believe these types of things or I have these types of thoughts towards this particular problem or social issue or anything really, just a misinterpretation or a misunderstanding rather of what I actually think. And I think that there's freedom in writing to be able to explore those types of ideas, but at the same time, I feel like there's danger in it as well, especially in this day and age where you say anything or you put anything to writing and it's up for judgment by the entire world if you put it on the internet. And of course, it's not exactly accurate, but it feels like that sometimes. And so, yeah, I think that it's an interesting tension, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like creativity gets, I feel like creativity gets stunted a little bit. I feel like it gets caught in some ways when there's fear present of not being able to explore an idea that's not entirely what you believe or isn't entirely in line with your beliefs, that doesn't exactly lead the reader to be in agreement, or not in agreement, to lead the reader to be in agreement with your beliefs, because ultimately I don't believe that that's what literature should be about. You know, it shouldn't be about, you know, an author saying this is what I believe and I'm going to write this so that sneakily you end up believing it too. I think it's more just about, you know, particularly with philosophy in mind, I think it's just about the thought process and allowing people to dive deeper and to be able to see what they think and be able to think in a way that maybe they haven't thought about before. You know, and ultimately if they arrive in the same beliefs as me, that's great, but at the same time I don't always want that to be my objective, you know. And in a lot of ways I feel like writing isn't, you know, my writing is for the audience, but at the same time it's for me. It's for me to be able to process. It's very, I don't know, it's very raw and very real and honest and true to who I am. And while I hope that whatever I write has impact on people and has, excuse me, has influence on people, a positive influence on people, or even a negative influence on people that turns it into thought, you know? Because I think that you can throw ideas out there and people can be so angry about it, but at least they end up thinking about what you had actually said, you know? You have to be able to understand why that thing made you angry, and to be able to think through why it made you angry actually helps you to be able to understand yourself better. So, you know, there's validity in making making people angry sometimes. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. But it's interesting. It's an interesting thought, I think. But yeah, so I'm curious where this is going. I'm curious about writing in general, and I don't know. We'll see where this all goes. You know, ultimately, I want, ultimately, my objective is always going to be I that once something actually gets put onto paper and hopefully published, that a that in that writing they find a friend. You know, I want them to have, because that's, to me, that's always what my favorite books were. They were friends, and I think that that's one of the most beautiful things, one of the most beautiful relationships. A girl in their books, a boy in their books, you know, a person, just a person with their books, you know, and it's a beautiful, beautiful relationship. And so that's my main objective for the published work. But before I get it published, before it goes out into the world, before it leaves my hands, a lot of it is just me having fun and playing around and fiddling and exploring myself and exploring these worlds and exploring life and questions and all this kinds of stuff. So it's an entire process. Anyways, so I think that I am done chatting for now. I will see you guys Wednesday. So I have work on Wednesdays, so I probably won't be able to have a chance to write tomorrow, but maybe after work I'll get a chance to video a little bit, vlog a little bit, and spend some time with you guys. Hopefully. Oh, so much burpage. Yeah, but yeah, so onward.